It's my feel-good breakfast show.
You can see how excited I am. That's because we're about to connect with human potential and parenting expert Nikki Bush about something really interesting, certainly from a parent's perspective, the do's and don'ts of helping our children choose their dominant hand, as well as how to help left-handed children in what must be said is a right-handed world out there. And of course, Nikki is here to break it down for us. Nikki, are you left or right-handed?
Oh, I'm definitely a right-handed person.
You're a rightist like the rest of us. I get it, I get it. Great to be connecting with you about quite an interesting one, and I would imagine one that's going to get quite practical.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start here. When does hand preference or dominance develop? How early should we be allowing our kids to develop both hands, if we can start with that?
Well, this is a great question coming from the two of you who have children flat bang in the middle of this age group. So children start choosing their dominant hand between the ages of 2 and 4. That means they start experimenting with isolating one hand that is going to be the preferred hand for doing very fine motor tasks like coloring in or using a spoon or playing with a peg, or posting shapes into a shape sorter. And children, to begin with, are experimenting with both hands. So parents may not be sure until really between the age of 4 and 6 whether their child is truly left-handed or right-handed.
So let's throw a spanner in the works there, or cat amongst the pigeons, and talk about ambidexterity. How common is ambidexterity, and what actually is it? Can you break down the term for us?
Okay, so being ambidextrous is only about 1% of the entire population. So very few people can use their right hand as well as they use their left hand. Children in that preschool age often show mixed dominance, where they alternate from one hand to the other while they're experimenting with where they are more coordinated or where they are stronger. So it's the quality of the movement that they're looking for. And so you may have a mixed dominant child for quite a long time, and there are a handful of children who will take until the age of 7 to choose their dominance. But you will find that teachers, preschool teachers, good preschool teachers are watching, particularly in the 4 to 6-year-old age group, for children who are battling to choose their preferred dominance, because it becomes a problem once children go into grade 1 and are having to write for a living, so to speak. If they haven't yet chosen their dominance, it becomes tricky. So you will find that if your child is between 5 or 6 and is still showing a lot of mixed dominance, that a teacher is likely to say, I think you maybe need to go and see an occupational therapist, who is then going to help your child to determine which side of the body they should be using.
Is it absolutely necessary to go one route and have a dominant hand? And why is that so important? I know you mentioned, obviously, it can become tricky when they're learning to write. Surely we can crest that challenge and move on. Do we need to have a dominant hand?
Yes, we do. We do need to have a dominant hand, because your dominant hand, in fact, your dominant hand, your dominant foot, your dominant eye, your dominant ear, all create what we call a genetic brain dominance profile. And there's a whole body of work on that. And if you go to nikkibush.com and just punch in brain profiling or genetic dominance, you'll pick up some information on this. It determines how you take in information, how you process information, and how you access information when you need it. And that's part of the whole dominance story. And that is not just about your hand. That is about all your different senses and ways of interacting with the world. But going back to the hand dominance, there has to be a supporting hand and a doing hand. And that's how you can talk to your children. And let's just talk about some activities quickly that will help you. And parents need to observe, because children will have a preference most of the time.
I can see it in Georgia, and she's only 2.
Yes, there we go. Screwing and unscrewing lids. If you give them, say, a bowl of batter, you're making pancakes, and see which hand they use. And the important thing is not to force them to choose a hand. You need to let them discover this by themselves. This is the very, very important piece of information here. Do not pass your child a spoon to their right hand because you want them to be right-handed or you think they are. Put it in their midline on the table and see which hand they pick it up with.
Interesting stuff. It's so funny that you mentioned that with Georgia. Luca's exactly the same. The other day I saw him playing and he was using his left hand. I was like, yes, we got a doctor in the family. But it's not the case.
No, it is. I look at it like my mom, I think, set that example because she's exceptional at everything she does. She tries and she's left-handed. So I've always assumed that left-handed people are just brilliant.
Smart.
And that's maybe true. But right-handed people can also be awesome, okay? Before you start judging your child too fiercely. Nikki's not going anywhere. We're going to get into more practical ways that we can start helping our child build on that dominant hand or that dominant side. Nikki is going to be staying with us. You must too.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, everybody. You're still locked here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We are continuing our conversation with human potential and parenting expert, our good friend Nikki Bush, on helping our children choose their dominant hand, as well as how to help our left-handed children in a right-handed world. Nikki, you still with us this morning?
Yes, I'm here.
Something we didn't get to touch on earlier on is how common is left-handedness?
Left-handedness is only about 10% of the population, and as you so rightly said in the beginning, we live in a very right-handed world. And so left-handed children do have a bit of a tough time because they're often being taught by parents and teachers who are right-handed, and if you're trying to mirror a movement, it's happening in a different way. But there are some things that are really important if you discover you do have a left-handed child, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with a left-handed child. And Graham, to your point, if you have a left-handed bowler, they could be the star in the team because they're that, surprise element, in the cricket team. So, and it's not to say that the left-handed bowler is not a right-footed person. So don't think that if they're left-handed, everything will be on the left, the dominance will all be on the left. It could be different. Once again, going back to what I said earlier, that the eye, the foot, the hand, the ear, all make up your genetic brain dominance profile, and it's all important. And there are lots of different combinations, hundreds of different combinations. So however your child presents in the world is exactly perfect, but we have to learn to support them. So if you have a left-handed child, it's incredibly important that you get them left-handed scissors.
I was going to say that. Left-handed scissors change your life.
I've never seen
They'll
one.
change your life. Now, I've seen it with my mom as well. It makes such... And she's a seamstress as well, on top of everything else that she does. It's a different thing. It's a different game. I love that. So you've made me a little bit nervous now. Like, if parents get to that point, that critical stage now where they are still unsure about their child's dominance, or maybe they're still seeing a mixed dominance, what should they do about it over and above, obviously seeking out an occupational therapist to get into it? What small things can we do to kind of start getting that hemisphere down?
So you really want to give children lots of opportunity to practice using their hands, because that's how they're going to work out their dominance. It could be as simple as playing with cars and trains on the floor and watch what hand your child takes. And when they use their hand for pushing cars and trains, they're actually pushing something across the midline of the body, which is very important because it's integrating left and right sides of the brain. So the right hand is controlled by the left side of the brain, the left hand by the right side of the brain. So we need lots of different activities to get that integration going. And then when you are sitting maybe with them with a piece of paper and some crayons, tear the piece of paper in pieces, little pieces, and we're talking here about a 4 or 5-year-old, and then give them a crayon and get them to color in on the little pieces. And that is going to demand that they choose one hand as the supporting hand to stabilize the piece of paper and one hand to do the coloring in. So it's going to force them to actively engage both hands, but for different tasks. One is doing, one is supporting. Okay. And so it's watching them play something like swing ball. The swing ball with the tennis ball.
I love that, yeah.
Okay, because that ball is coming at you from all sides, and obviously kicking balls. All of that is going to be important in helping your child to establish that dominance. And it's a process of discovery. That's what it is. And once again, a reminder to parents, do not force your child to use one hand or the other. This is a process of discovery. When you hand them a pen, pencil, spoon, knife or fork, put it down on the table, dead center, in the midline, in front of them on the table, and let them pick it up with whichever hand is appropriate for them.
You know what's going to happen, Nikki? My child's going to stick her hand in her food and ignore the fork completely. I can see it.
No, but this is also a great conversation starter. How many conversations have you had with people be like, oh my word, you're left-handed? Are you a doctor? What do you do for a living? Because it just starts encouraging a conversation around whether you're left-handed or right-handed. But Nikki Bush, as always, it's so great to connect with you. Thank you so much. For some reason, I
want to wave goodbye with my left hand. You are the wind beneath writer's wings, hey?
Me too.
I love it.
I don't know if we do both, it's much easier.
You've got such a supportive hand. I absolutely love that left hand. Nikki, this has been a really interesting one, and I've taken so many gems that I'm going to go home and use my poor little children as guinea pigs, but that's what it's all about. Like you said, it's a voyage of discovery, so I can't wait to take that next step. It's always such a pleasure connecting with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Literally, we were at the same time. Of course, for you at home.
It's your turn.
For more parenting matters, be sure to check that Facebook group with Nikki Bush, and you can connect with her. Let's wait.
Come on, lefties.
Yeah, yeah.